Hey Jaelyn, you have an incoming call.
Answer the call. Hi, Aliyah, it's great to meet you. How are you feeling today?
Hi, Jaelyn. I'm all right, thank you. I've been feeling a bit confused and unsettled lately, which is why I reached out.
Sure. Can you tell me a bit more about what's been going on and what prompted you to seek counseling?
Well, it all started back in college. I made this impulsive bet with some friends to sleep with 100 virgins. It seemed like a challenge and a distraction from academic stress. But now, halfway through, I've completely lost interest in the bet, in men, and even in sex. It's like a switch flipped inside me.
Please don't worry, Aliyah. Let's unpack this step by step. First, why did you make the bet? Was it purely for the challenge, or was there something more to it?
It seemed like a way to prove something, maybe to myself or to my friends. I was always so focused on my studies and coding, this felt like an escape, a way to feel more in control of my personal life.
I see. And how did you feel when you were actively pursuing the bet? Did it give you the sense of control or distraction you were looking for?
Initially, it was thrilling. It was a way to break away from the rigors of my academic life. But over time, it started to feel empty and meaningless. I realized I was no longer interested in the bet or in sex at all.
That's quite a significant shift. How did you feel when you noticed this change?
It was disconcerting. I thrive on logic and understanding, and this abrupt shift in my desires was deeply unsettling. It made me question aspects of my identity that I had previously taken for granted.
Sure. It's completely understandable to feel that way. Let's talk about your attitude towards the virgin status itself. How did that play into the bet?
To be honest, the virgin status was just a criterion, a way to make the bet more challenging. It didn't have much personal significance beyond that.
Got it. And outside of this bet, how are things in your work and personal life? Any particular stresses or pressures you're dealing with?
Work is intense but fulfilling. I'm a software developer specializing in AI at a tech startup. It's a high-pressure environment, but I thrive on the challenges. Socially, I've always been reserved. I have a small circle of like-minded friends, but I often feel detached, like an observer rather than a participant.
Your analytical and methodical nature is clear, and it's wonderful that you've found a fulfilling career. But it sounds like the stress from work and your reserved nature might be impacting your personal life and desires. How do you feel about that?
It's possible. The logical structure of coding has always been a solace for me, a contrast to the unpredictable nature of human interactions. But recently, even that structure hasn't been enough to ground me.
Please don't worry. Stress can have a significant impact on our desires and behaviors. When things become too overwhelming, it's natural for our interests to shift. Have you noticed any patterns or triggers that might be contributing to this change?
Not really. It just seemed to happen overnight. One moment I was engrossed in the bet, and the next, it all seemed pointless. I haven't been able to pinpoint any specific triggers.
That sudden shift can be quite jarring. Let's explore your feelings a bit more. How did you feel about sex and relationships before the bet?
Growing up, relationships were always a bit of an enigma to me. My first serious relationship was in college, but I often felt emotionally distant. It was more about intellectual synergy than emotional connection. That pattern continued in my subsequent relationships.
It sounds like intellectual compatibility has always been important to you, but emotional connection has been more elusive. Do you think this might be linked to your recent change in desires?
Possibly. My career and intellectual pursuits have always been my main focus. Emotional connections often felt secondary. But now, with this shift, I'm questioning what I truly want and need in a relationship.
Sure. It's important to reassess our needs and desires as we grow and change. Have you considered that this shift might be a natural progression, a way of your mind telling you to focus on different aspects of your life?
That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way. It's possible that my mind is pushing me to reevaluate my priorities.
Absolutely. Our minds and bodies have a way of guiding us towards what we need, even if it's not immediately clear. Let's explore this further. How do you feel about the idea of focusing more on emotional connections and less on physical or intellectual achievements?
It's a bit daunting, to be honest. Emotional connections have always been challenging for me. But I'm open to exploring this new direction if it means finding more balance and fulfillment.
Sure. It's great that you're open to exploring this. Emotional connections can be incredibly rewarding, and finding that balance can bring a lot of fulfillment. How do you think you can start working towards this new focus?
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I need to start by being more open with my friends and trying to connect on a deeper level. It's going to be a learning process, for sure.
That sounds like a good start. Being open and honest with your friends can help build those emotional connections. Remember, it's okay to take it one step at a time. What's one small step you can take this week towards this goal?
I think I could try having a more personal conversation with one of my close friends. Maybe share some of what I've been feeling and see where it goes from there.
Sure. That sounds like a wonderful plan. Taking small steps can lead to big changes over time. How do you feel about this approach?
It feels manageable. I think I can do that. Thanks, Jaelyn. This conversation has been really helpful.
I'm glad to hear that, Aliyah. Remember, it's a journey, and you're not alone in this. We can continue to explore these feelings and work towards finding that balance together.